Well, what a difference a week can make. I'll give you a quick run through. Hi everybody, it's Dave here from Anvil. It's Sunday morning. I've had to get up a bit early because the dog needs to be let out early and there's no one else to do it. So I thought I'd give you a brief rundown on the week. And it was a much more positive week than the previous week where I was a little bit disappointed with it. It made a massive difference, let me tell you. The week started on a Tuesday because, of course, it was bank holiday, and it started with a job up to Scotland. It was a good paying job. I'd bid high for it, was surprised I got it, to be perfectly honest. And it was taking some display material from the Bradford area up to a storage unit just outside Glasgow. Good job. And quite pleased with the price. And obviously what I was going to plan to do was go up, and if I didn't get a job, I would go tramp out and try and find a job in the morning. Because one thing I've been conscious of recently is that I probably am doing too many dead miles. I know I said it doesn't bother me, but when I worked out what I spent on fuel, even though my takings have been all right, I think I could do a bit better. So I thought, well, if I'm a little bit more careful with my fuel consumption, or pence per mile, or whatever you want to call it, then I could probably do a little bit better. So my intention was to do that. So get to Glasgow, get delivered, and then if you've seen Neil from Neptune's latest video, you'll see that I had to go on a rescue mission because he's got a new van and the bloody engine management lights come on for him. I feel his pain because he's had nothing but trouble with the other van. Got himself a nice new van. I think it's a Ford Transit Custom. Beautiful van. And that's bloody playing up. I'm hoping it's just something minor, the fact that it's been sat for a while before he's bought it, and, you know, the electrics are just having a bit of a goof around. Once a good reset's done, hopefully it'll be okay. But the upshot was, I had to go and meet him at the garage where he bought the car and take his load off him, which was going back to Oldham, OL2, where I live. So, although I was happy to help Neil, my good deed came with a bonus in that I did get the job back to Oldham. It was a cheaper price because Neil had done it with a co-loading permission on it, so it wasn't a massive price, but what that did was more than cover my dues for the run-up and give me a little bit extra as well. But the added bonus, I actually got paid the next morning for the job. So fingers crossed for our Neil. Let's hope that this one's sorted out and everything's going to go okay for him. So Tuesday was a pretty good day. Wednesday was a standard day, really. Wednesday, I took a job to Middlesbrough, and then whilst in Middlesbrough, I did a job from Middlesbrough across to Darlington, and I didn't get anything back, but I drove back. But the job nipping over to Darlington kind of paid a lot towards the juice that I was going home with. So again, a few wasted miles, but takings for the day, pretty good. Which brings us to Thursday. Thursday was a good day. Thursday started off late. I didn't have a job booked in for the morning, so it meant going on the feed. I had to go and run a quick errand in the morning anyway. Got on the feed, picked myself up a little job from Ashton, which you'll see in the previous video, but turned out to be a no job because it wouldn't fit on the van. Got myself a call out for it. Parked up round the corner, recorded a little video, and then immediately picked up a job after that, which was going from the same place I collected from, but for another shipper, to Sharston. Quoted long bill but waste price, got a good price for it because the feed seemed quite busy. Went and did that, and on the way to dropping it off, I got a phone call from a shipper. Now, it is a shipper that I've used a couple of times before and done some jobs for. And they asked me, would I go to Stockport and collect a job for Morecambe, 2 large pallets, but not heavyweight. So in a situation where a shipper rings you, they're doing it either 1, because they love you and think you're wonderful, or 2, it's really busy and they're struggling to clear the job. Either way, you can make sure you get the right price for the job. I don't mean robbing and blind, but simply that they want a job doing from Stockport to Morecambe. Morecambe is not a good place to pick up return loads from. So when they rang, I just laughingly joked and said, oh, Morecambe, that hotbed of activity. They laughed back and said, look, I'll do it, but you're going to have to put a bit extra on the job for me, because I've got to get out of Morecambe. I'm not going to get paid to come out of Morecambe. And we agreed a price that suited us both. So it was a better than average price you'd get for the mileage. It covered me to leave Morecambe and move to a busier area, hoping obviously to get back. Did that job in Morecambe, really straightforward. Thought, right, I'm getting out of Dodge now. Got myself up to the M6. Got on the M6, got a phone call from another shipper. This shipper's a big shipper, one that we probably all of us do lots of jobs for. I won't say their name, but they're well known. I found them really decent. And they always pay you on time. They, I'm assuming, must have been looking on the feed and said, looking maybe for a long wheelbase van. And they said, we see you on the M6, we've got a job in Blackpool that needs to go to Wrexham. And again, you can not demand, that's the wrong word, but you can negotiate a good price because they're ringing you. It could be, again, they might like your feedback. They probably were desperate. But the upshot was, they agreed to pay me the mileage from where I was on the M6 near Morecambe to Blackpool and then on to Wrexham, which meant that I got the full long wheelbase van rate that I like to bid at for that job. And again, it was a fairly simple job. It was from an aerospace company in Blackpool, taking it to their other branch in Wrexham. Got it covered, delivered it, and by then it's kind of, late afternoon approaching, shutting time for most firms. I did keep the feed on. Wrexham isn't far enough away for me to justify tramping. It's an hour away from home. So I drove home, but with a very good takings for the day. Which brings us to Friday. Friday was, well, the only way I can describe it, it was an amazing day. It just all worked out for me. It seemed to work without trying. It was quite busy, so that helped. But I started the day with an ADR job that had already pre-booked in, going to Milton Keynes. It was, I'll tell you what it was. I'll show you a picture. So they have it, a large bulk container of flammable goods, fully ADR, no naked flames, don't do anything that causes a spark. It was strapped down properly. As you can see underneath, it looks like there's a leak, but there wasn't. That's just an oil stain from a bloody gearbox that was in the van from a few weeks ago. I took that to Milton Keynes, and while I was on the way down, I'd made tentative arrangements to meet up with Saintsman, who's got his own YouTube channel, because we were both going to Milton Keynes, and we thought we'd meet up and have a brew, because we were both going to Milton Keynes and we're both going to get there about the same time. As it happened, I delivered and he delivered, and he picked up a job really quickly. He's in a small van. He's a right busy bee. So he said, look, Dave, can't meet you. I'm busy, got another job, but we got close. We'll do it again sometime. So that's not a problem. In the meantime, I delivered, parked up round the corner, looking for work. It was really busy, the feed. It seems to be a good area, Milton Keynes. But of course, most of it's going south. I would like to go north. And then a job came up, long wheelbase job, going to Newcastle upon Tyne. needs to be collected before 1 p.m. Now, this was perhaps 20 past 12, 25 past 12. I had a quick glance about what the postcode was and noticed I was only 15 minutes away. So I thought, I'm going to put a strong bid in for that long wheelbase job. Not a lot of people around here are going to want to go up to Newcastle. And it's not ideal for me. It's going north, but it's going a little bit too north. So I put a strong bid in, a really good price. And I was telephoned practically straight away. And all they said was, how quickly can you get there? I said, I'll be there in 15 minutes. So they said, fine, time is important. Can you please start heading towards that postcode? I'll send you all the information through. Because the firm that was sending the item was closing early on a Friday, closed at 1 o'clock. So I started heading up. They sent the information through. I'm quite chuffed now because I've got a good price. So if I don't get anything back from Newcastle, then at a pinch, going home will not be too bad for me because I've got the ADR job on the way down and I've got this really strong price, almost as much as what the ADR job was giving me, to go to Newcastle. And when I get there, it was for a firm called British Felt Company. I'm thinking, going to be rolls of felt, pallets of felt, something like that. It won't be heavy. I pull up to these roller shutters, which are open, and there's a load of rolls of felt all stacked up inside the door. I thought, well, that's got to be them. That's easy enough. They'll be easy to put on, easy to take off. Reversed up to the door, and a lady came out with a box and said, my, that's a big van, just for this. And I'll show you the box that I carried up to Newcastle for long wheelbase money and strong money at that. You can see, you could have gone up in a Ford Fiesta with that, not a problem. You could have strapped it to the back of a motorcycle. And that's what it was. There was a bit of a breakdown in communication. It was too late to correct it anyway. It needed to go. So that got thrown in the van. I went up to Newcastle. Long drive, caught a bit of traffic around Leeds area as you always do, because you're obviously getting towards late afternoon. Got myself up on the A1. It's a lovely drive up. And as I'm getting close to my destination, I'm looking at the feed. I'd already put my journey in, thinking, I'm not going to tramp out tonight because it's obviously a Friday. If I can get something back, but it was getting late, we was pushing towards 5 o'clock-ish as I was approaching towards Newcastle. And in fact, it was after 5, I remember. A job come up, a job for a short wheelbase van going from Durham, which was only 15 minutes away from where I was dropping off, to Wigan. I thought, I can't believe this has come out this time of night. I'm going to bid. And they wanted it collecting before 7 p.m. to ASAP delivery though. So I thought, well, I'll throw a bid in on that. I will keep my bid keen. I'll do £1 a mile. But then again, that's probably the going rate for a short wheelbase van, isn't it? But I put £1 a mile price in. And again, got a telephone call. When can you collect? I said, I'm 16 minutes away from dropping in Washington. And then that is only 15, 20 minutes away from where you are, or that job is, I should say. So they gave me the job. Absolutely fabulous. So did my drop, went and picked that up. Bit of faffing about to pick it up. And loaded it. And it was basically going to a food packaging company in Wigan. And it was 2 large pallets, but not heavy at all, of trays, because this is a part of this food packaging company, or the food preparation company and delivering to, sorry, they do ready meals. So if you can imagine the kind of packaging I was taking. And it was needed urgently because they were going to run out tonight. So off I went. I did have a bit of faffing about when I got there. When I delivered, it's a massive site. I went to the security lodge, who said, packaging needs to go to warehouse 4. Where's warehouse 4? He gave me the directions. It's kind of off-site. Went there, and all there was a warehouse door, closed. There was I could see there was a light behind, but no bell, nothing on the warehouse. So all I could do was kind of bang on the warehouse door a bit, and nothing happened. I gave it 15, 20 minutes. Thought, right, I'll drive back to security. So I went back to security. He's saying, oh God, that bleeding bloke is a nightmare. You can never get hold of him. I'll ring somebody. So he's on the phone saying, can you go and find such a body and tell him there's a delivery, blah, blah, blah. So he said, can you go back round? I went back round. The upshot was, after all of that, I waited an hour for this fella who I think was skiving somewhere to actually open them bloody doors and unload me. I mean, he was a pleasant enough fella, but I got the impression, because it's a late shift, and he's the only one in that part of the factory, he was having a good old skive somewhere. He said to me, I can't get a phone signal all the time in here, so they can't always get hold of me. Either way, I rang the shippers, and they agreed to pay me the waiting time. So that day, that Friday, was probably the best pence per mile I've ever done, because I'd got an ADR rate to Milton Keynes, a strong long wheelbase van rate up to Newcastle, and a short wheelbase van rate back home. And I did do a rough calculation for that particular day, and it worked out something like 400 odd miles at an average of like £1.50 something a mile. So I'm not going to get that very often, am I? But the upshot was, the week itself, for a 4-day week, was absolutely magnificent. I took really strong money, because, I mean, the Friday itself was, well, I don't like throwing figures out, but it was over £700. This doesn't happen very often. And when you do, you just make the most of it, don't you? So the week itself, really strong, a 4-day week, one of my best weeks ever. Compare that to last week, where I was disappointed, and it shows you the ups and the downs of this job, that it can be good, then bad, but as long as you're prepared to travel and move. So, but remember, if you're, someone who's thinking, I could do this job and I want to get that kind of money, it doesn't happen every day. And secondly, that was a long day. I started my day picking up at 8:45 a.m. And by the time I got home, because of the waiting time at the last destination, it was after 10. So that's a long day's work. And there wasn't actually much break time in any of that. A brief break once I dropped off in Milton Keynes while I looked at the feed, etc. Well, that's kind of more or less it. So that was a long drive a day, and probably it's not good for you to drive that long. So you can't do that all the time, can you? But more positive, very good. Very pleased with the week. If it were only, it could be like that all the time, but it won't be. I know that. But I really think that last week was a bit of a blip, because on average, I seem to be doing okay in this job. I've got a meeting with the accountants on Wednesday next week. He wants to run over the issues with the VAT, and also wants to work out what he says is a more tax efficient way of paying myself. I currently just pay myself a wage every month, pay the PAYE. He wants to discuss with me something about paying myself a smaller wage but taking dividends. I don't pretend to understand all of this, but he says it is better for tax. The only thing I've said to him, I'm not doing anything where someone comes back to me later on down the line and wants more money off me. I want to do, whatever I do, I want it to be legal, completely legal. If it's more tax efficient, that's fine, as long as it's legal. He assures me it is. It's not avoiding tax, it's just being more efficient about the way that you have to pay it. So we'll run through the VAT, we'll discuss that way of paying myself, and we'll move on. The van is going to have its major service in 2 weeks. Money's all put aside for it, and everything else is fine. The week will start off positive, because I have got a job booked in on Monday, an ADR job to Birmingham, which I'd bid for when I was mooching up to Newcastle, and they rang me and gave it me, so they wanted it out of the way. So that's a good, nice start to the week on Monday as well. So I hope everybody is doing well. I hope those of you just recently started are doing well. Remember that lots of the guys on here are open to giving people advice. So you've got Tall Man, Small Man, you've got Freddie Fletcher Limited, you've got Saintsman Dave, you've got myself. And if you have any questions on anything, message us. If I don't know the answer myself, I'll say I don't know the answer, but I'll give you an answer in my opinion. But if you have just recently started, I really hope it's going well for you, okay? You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. On the whole, for me, the whole experience so far, touch wood, has been an up. I've had 1 week that I was really disappointed with, but I still made the minimum amount of money I need to run my business and pay me a wage. It's just that I've had such good weeks around it that it felt like a disappointment. I know from being told that we're going to have a really lean time come January, because January apparently is totally dead. And it'll probably be time to take a little holiday. No point in having the van sat there unable to work. If it's not going to be able to work, I might as well take a break then. Okay, so everybody take care of yourselves. I hope you're earning lots of money and I hope you're all doing well. See you soon.